Hey guys, today we're talking with Pastor Jeff Whye, who's the online campus pastor at Sandals Church. We're going to take a look at what that position looks like, some of the awesome things that they're currently doing, and what the future may hold for online church. Welcome, everybody, to the Ministry Coach Podcast. My name is Jeff Lascola, and I'm here with my better half,
Kristen Lascola, and I wouldn't say better half. I would
Really?
Yeah.
It's much better half. It's probably more accurate, right?
I don't think so. But people just say that. It's so cliche. Whatever.
It's true. I won the lottery.
Anyways, well, we have a really special guest today that we're super excited about because this is a guy we met in a really random way. I feel like, how many years ago? Like
a decade,
at least 10. So we were both, well, I was a youth pastor. Jeff was one of my volunteers before he fell desperately in love with me. And we went to this camp in Southern California called Forest Home. And there was this
living legend amongst us.
This guy who was loud,
larger than life,
hilarious, and he was like walked into any setting at camp and it was like your focus just went like directly at him because his smile is like gigantic. He's super tall, super funny,
life of the party.
Yeah. And his name is Jeff Whye, and he has done a lot since our summers at Forest Home. I don't know if we did winter camp, summer camp, but it seemed like our weeks would always overlap and we would always be so excited to see him. And one of the warmest, funnest people ever. Definitely. So we've stayed in touch, but Jeff is doing such an interesting role that we were like, we just have to talk to him because it's obviously so time appropriate. And I mean, we're both just actually curious because Jeff is now the online pastor for Sandals Church, which is a large church in Riverside, California. And obviously online church is huge right now. Like everyone's going that direction. Obviously we need to. And we're just like, wow, like what does an online pastor do? Because we're pastors who have to go online. Jeff is an online pastor of like all the online content. So it's like what we wanted to pick his brain. What does he do? And so Jeff, hello, friend. Welcome. How are you doing?
Guys, how you doing? Come on.
It's good to see you.
First of all, thank you so much for that warm greeting. Man, you guys just pumped me up. I'm excited to be here. You have no idea. And for all you guys listening in, man, when I met Kristen and Jeff, and yes, I'm going to say it that way. Come on, somebody. When I met Kristen and Jeff, I felt like, man, these individuals just, first of all, they know their stuff. I mean, Kristen, you've been in ministry for what, like 30 years, sister? 12. You look like a 12, but you've been in ministry for so long. And to be a middle school pastor at that is awesome. And then on top of that, to see your husband working alongside of you is just absolutely awesome. And so when I met you guys, and it was about maybe 2 or 3 Forest Home summers where we got to hang out together and got to do ministry together as our kids learned more about Jesus. It was just awesome. And I really honestly just fell in love with you guys. And so I honestly have been a fan of you guys for a long time. That is no lie at all. And so even not only that, but every time my wife and I and family have tried to, when we vacation in Oceanside from Arizona where we were, we desperately tried to hang out with you and it just didn't happen. But now,
I know.
other than COVID right now, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That's right.
It will. I mean, you're probably like 45 minutes from us, I would say now. So we have no excuse. We'll get it together one of these days.
Awesome. But yeah, so guys, honestly though, all funny and jokes aside, I love being here. I love hanging out with you guys. And yeah, I'm excited to let you and some other individuals know what in the world I'm doing. And so, yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. And like we were talking pre-show, I mean, Jeff is so busy. Like this is like his season. He's running full tilt, 100 miles an hour, always something going on. So Jeff, you didn't apply for the job, online pastor.
We're thrown into it.
So tell us like how you came into this position in the first place.
Yes, by the grace of God. Honestly, guys, no, that's actually, it literally is totally God. When I think about kind of just the last couple of years and my experiences and everything I've been through and the gifts that God has given me, honestly, it just actually makes sense. But it was something that just, it did seem like it came out of nowhere, kind of in a way, but God saw where it was going. So I would say I was hired. Let's start it back. I was interviewing at Sandals Church, and I was interviewing though for a campus pastor role, campus pastor position. This church, Sandals Church, has 12 locations, 12 campuses, and they have just been, planting campuses like crazy. And honestly, I feel like they do a really awesome job at that. So I was coming in to be whatever that next possible location was. And they were saying somewhere in Southern California, some really awesome, fun, exciting areas. And I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'd love to go there. I'd love to hang out. It'd be fun. Yes. San Diego. Yes. Orange County. Yes. They need a brother in Orange County. But and so that's where the direction was. And I was hired as a campus pastor resident. And the idea was like, hey, for 6 months to a year and a half, you're going to kind of just be in this queue, this waiting period while you're learning the DNA, while you're learning the culture, understanding the vision. Because I think ideally to raise up inside, that's what you want to do. But I was brought in from the outside. I was this external plug-in. And so there was a lot for me to learn. And so I was hired May 6th. And I'm telling you guys, before May even ended, I was chosen to be the new online campus pastor. And so, gosh, just a little, just a little background on that, if I can, so if you think about like, oh, wow, this guy was just hired out of nowhere. I mean, guys, there's people on staff. It's like, over 200 and 220 individuals on staff. And so I know they're probably thinking like, who is this dude that literally comes in and then like that, he's one of our campus pastors, and not only just a campus pastor, but he's our online campus pastor. And so it's best to assume a few people might see me like, who is this dude? And so that was, this had been in the planning for quite some time. Sandals Church have been planning online ministry for a long time, actually. And so about a year and a half, they said, what would it look like to have our online constituents as an actual campus, a community where we actually have a pastor that's over that. So you started talking through that. They had probably plans for it in possibly 2021, something like that. But COVID just put the pedal to the metal. Like, we need somebody now. Who's here? Who's here? I'm here. And so I was chosen for that role. And so it does kind of seem like, wow, this kind of happened out of nowhere. But when you think about the role and you think about me and you think about Sandals' direction, it really honestly just makes sense. And isn't that what God does? Come on, somebody. I'm waiting for it, Jeff.
Absolutely. And like waiting in the wing, I actually, just to mention really quick, I love that strategy of like the waiting in queue, learning the DNA. And it's like, hey, be one of us before we like give it all to you, and just learn the church, because imports are hard. Like church imports, unless they're homegrown and they've always had the DNA, like importing someone, even if like you have a ton of ministry experience, so many years under your belt, but not at Sandals. And so to come in, I love that strategy. I think there's some like real gold there. We're not going to chase that too much, but so tell us, now you've been doing this almost 3 months and like describe what, because you're obviously super busy. You guys are flying. You're probably one of the busiest pastors at the church at the moment because all the content is falling on you. Everything's so online heavy. But what does an online pastor do?
Yeah, I'm waiting to find out. See, almost every meeting and conversation, and even with my team, something that I'm just going to be saying a lot right now. This is all new for all of us. There are a couple ministries out there that have been doing this for a while, an online campus pastor, whatever you want to call it. Saddleback, Jay Cranda has been doing this for a while. George Allen at lifechurch.tv, of course. There's a couple of pastors, a couple of places out there that they've been doing this for a while. We've been planning it for about 2 to 3 years, really. But they've actually had these individuals in place. And so, but for Sandals, we have to learn what that role looks like, what does it look like for us, and how does our vision and DNA fit in with all, and even our direction? Because what I've discovered is where, and I'm not trying to name drop any churches or anything, but where Elevation, where Life Church, where Saddleback is going, where these other churches, where they're going is that's their direction. And what we discovered is, yeah, we can get bits and pieces of ideas from them, but that's not our direction. That's not the Sandals way. That's not where we're possibly heading. And so this, it's a nuance for everybody, guys. It really is. No matter what church decides, like, hey, we want to do this, it's a nuance. And so I would say the biggest part of my role is trying to figure things out, and not only figure things out, but there's the role itself, and then I have my team, and then I have Sandals that I'm trying to figure out, and then I have the technical side, which, praise God, I don't really need to deal with that much, but there is some side to that. And then you have the people. How do how do people, I'm called a pastor, right? Pastor's supposed to pastor, shepherd people. So where does that fit in? And so I'm really trying to discover all of that. Basically, in short, what an online campus pastor does is pastor and shepherd the people that are remote to any one of our local campuses. And so I've actually been thinking about, like, man, another way you can kind of title my role is not an online campus pastor, but possibly a remote campus pastor. Because one of the things we're discovering is, so I'm just pick out one of our campuses, our Palm Avenue campus, Palm Ave in Riverside, California. Those individuals go to that local Palm Avenue campus. But as of right now, and probably for a while, there's going to be a chunk of them that will stay online. And so Alfredo Ramos, he is the campus pastor, but he's also serving to help these individuals who are online, who are still connected to his local campus. And so I am the pastor to anyone remote from any one of our local campuses. And what we discovered in the last many years, that there's people who are honestly all around the world. And I know a place like North Coast has to be similar. There's people who love Larry Osborne, people who love Chris Brown, people who love what North Coast is doing. And they're nowhere near any one of your campuses. They're somewhere, far, far remote, but they would love to be part of the church. They find themselves as possibly, man, I go to North Coast and you have no clue who they are. You may never know who they are unless they send an email, unless they give. Come on, right? I know who they are now. There were a lot of individuals like that. Like sending in money, sending in their gift, asking about Sandals, saying we love what you're doing. There was little IP addresses popping up everywhere. And so our executive pastor, Dan Zimbardi, who is a flipping genius, and Brian Shillette, who is my boss, and John Brown, who's is in charge of all the campus pastors, they started thinking like, hey, what would it look like? Because this number of online people who are watching, they're growing. There's a lot of people watching, a lot of people pre-COVID, guys. And they said, what would it look like to actually find us a pastor? And honestly, you know where this really, and this is good, guys, they had like this techie, geeky guy named Nick Ovalle who was in charge of that. Not a pastor, probably not having anything to do with shepherding or ministry or anything like that. He's a tech dude. He gets online and he's like, man, we should start doing stuff online. And so for the last year and a half, he's been a campus pastor for these individuals. And he was the one blowing the horn the loudest, like, we need a pastor. I'm getting emails, I'm getting messages, I'm seeing the people out there. We need someone to pastor them. And so they started tuning in. It's like, we need someone to actually shepherd these individuals. So that's the biggest part of what I do. So we try to offer community groups. We try to offer, how can they serve? We try to offer, like, how can we help them to have a ministry, a church experience where they're at. It's something we're starting called Sandals Church Anywhere. Please ask me about that. And so we're trying to do all these things to help shepherd our congregation that's afar and remote.
So then, okay, you hit on something that I've been really curious about then. So you're talking about community groups and serving and all of that. So if somebody is remote, are you getting them plugged in? Like, okay, well, I found this group of people in your area. Then you guys go off and meet in person? Or are you setting up like online type of Bible study groups for them? So are they meeting digitally or are you just digital?
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So first of all, I should have said this caveat in the beginning. I'm brand new to this. I'm trying to figure it out. And we have so many people that I sometimes when this is the first time I've had this conversation with churches a lot. I'm getting so many calls from churches and I'm like, oh my gosh, what would Nick say? Oh my gosh, what would the groups guy say? Oh my gosh, what would John? I'm all these. So I would say this. We have online groups and we have kind of groups. We have groups that meet virtually, fully virtually. And then we also have groups that meet online. And so when I say that, it can be kind of weird or remote. There are individuals who are far from a location that they meet, and then they have like their own little community group that physically meets there somewhere in Wichita, Kansas, or something like that. And then there's also individuals who are part of our virtual community groups, we call them, who meet with people all over. It doesn't matter where they're at. And so they virtually call in like a Zoom here or like a Google Hangouts or whatever you want to call it. And they do that every 2 weeks or something like that, which is really neat. Talk about meeting people around the world, right? And so we have those two types of groups that we have already started before Jeff Whye stepped into the building.
Okay, so now you're 3 months in, and what would you say right now, looking for the next 3 months, what would be like top priority? What would be a win for you and your team in the next 3 months? Like, what are you guys currently working toward that you'd look back and say, we did it?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Kristen. All right, I'll do my best. So I would say there's 2 wins. My responsibility, I have I'm the online campus pastor or the remote campus pastor. And so we call it sandalschurch.tv, where if you were to come to Sandals Church website and pick a campus out of the 13 campuses, one of them is sandalschurch.tv campus. And so that's where I shepherd the people who are connected to that. And these people primarily, like I would say 80 to 90% of them, just on a weekly or a weekend basis, tune in for the service, watch it, and that's it. And we have a lot of individuals like that. So I would say there's a win for them, but there's also a win for something that we just started. And this is like hot off the press, guys. This is what I get the most emails and phone calls and virtual calls and churches calling me about. And it's our Sandals Church Anywhere. And that is individuals who are very far remotely from Sandals Church, but they want more. They want more of an experience. They want more of Sandals Church. And so what we have done, we said, okay, what would it look like to offer them a full Sandals Church-like experience wherever they are, anywhere? And so that's a very, it's a big vision. If we can do it, it's a big win, but we're putting so much gas behind this, guys. It's pretty impressive. And so I have a lot of my team. I would say the number one thing we work on is how to make the Sandals Church Anywhere happen. And here's what's awesome, guys. We find these individuals, and you can ask me about that, but we find these individuals find us. And then we just hear their stories, guys. And these stories they will blow you away with how they are bought into the vision, how they've been watching Pastor Matt, our senior pastor, for years, and how they're like, we love Sandals Church, and they've never stepped foot in the building. They've never stepped foot in Southern California, possibly United States. And they want Sandals Church to be their church. And so we're saying, like, what can we do to offer them a full, robust Sandals Church-like experience? And so we're working almost, it seemed like, around the clock to figure that out. And so we're doing it. How can they serve? How can we ask them to give? A lot of times they already are giving. How can we connect them to community groups? How can they kind of be these locations. That's actually what I call them, Sandals Church Anywhere locations, where who knows what might happen one day. Okay, now I'm about to give you something that I want to bless you. You know, I'm a blessed Brother Osborne, Dr. Osborne. So what we're doing is something. So Pastor Matt had this vision years ago. That's the senior pastor. I think God is giving him. He said, I think God is giving me this vision for 500 campuses. 500 campuses. Wow. I know. Come on, right? I'm like, brother, I think you may need to talk to the Lord again. I mean, who? Come on now. That's just crazy. Come on. Who said 500 campuses? I mean, Paul didn't even go that far, 500 campuses. And so, and I know the staff, I was nowhere around like 3-4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago when he said this, the staff was like, we trying to survive with 6 right now, And so this is, I believe, one of, if not the way to do it.
Yeah.
So we are creating Sandals Church Anywhere locations where we're asking people, hey, would you just be a host? Would you just be a facilitator? And we will do everything else from afar, but we will do everything else to support you, to resource you, to do everything we can to help you. You just find a couple people to have a watch party, to kind of have people come in your home, you be a host for them. And then, if God willing, it happens where it grows. And then I'm telling you guys, with hearing some of these individuals and hearing some of these individuals, the areas that they live in, they need Sandals Church there. There is places all around the world that need North Coast. There are places all around the world that need Saddlebacks, that need these amazing churches. They want what we have, and what we have is Jesus, but the vehicle, there's something about the vehicle that we're bringing Jesus in. And so we're trying to do that. And we believe by doing that, who knows, in 3, 4, 5 years, we'll hit 200 campuses, 200 mini little campuses called Sandals Anywheres. And so who knows what would happen beyond that. So
you think you're busy now, Jeff? I mean, you better buckle up, my friend.
No, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Listen to me. I come home and I'm exhausted, but I go to work and I'm so excited to do what I love what I do. I love what I do. And so it's really neat. It's cool. It's innovative. We are constantly, their executive director is like, hey, be innovative. This is the time to experiment. This is the time to try new things. If there ever was a time, this is it. And that's what I'm excited about. I can just, I'm a kid in the candy store, let's, so yeah, it's really, really cool.
Well, I hear what you're saying. And I sometimes forget about our remote campuses, but like North Coast, there's a group in Kailua in Hawaii, and they just liked our content and they host it in someone's house every weekend. And you'll hear Chris Brown every once in a while give a shout out to our Kailua, and it's called a campus now, Kailua campus. We have a group in Ohio that like you said, they've never stepped foot here. So what do you think it is? Because it's such a weird tension of like, okay, we're all online and everyone's like, we got to get back in church. And then there's like these robust online communities. Like I've been using Life Church resources forever. If you're a youth pastor, plug right now, lifechurch.tv, free resources, just get them. But you're creating all this stuff to not keep people online, but serve people online. So what is the secret sauce that keeps them wanting more, keeps them coming back, keeps them engaged online rather than just finding somewhere local? But what is it about Sandals that you think it's I don't care if I'm, 500 miles away, I'm going to get my sandals. Why?
Yeah. So first, let me say this real quick, because you remind me of something. This, and I'll come back to that. The second win of the online campus is to create content. And we like to call it bridge content that will bridge people to be connected more, content to bridge people to be involved more, content to bridge people to possibly become a Sandals Church Anywhere location. And so we have to, Life Church has already done a really great job in doing that. They've created a lot of bridge content, a lot of content online. So that's my other win. I would say, in order to, So there are a lot of people who are like, man, we just got to get back to church. Yes, please. I want to, yeah, trust me, I want to do that too, to a degree, because now I'm the online campus pastor. But yes, there's so many people that want to do that. There's something about being in the physical presence of other people. That's just human nature. Yes, we would all love to do that. This is going to end. This will end. But I got to just say this. I believe without a shadow of a doubt, Lord have mercy, I'm sure it's called like, hey, did God cause COVID? I would never say that he caused COVID, but there can be an opportunity that could be found within this horrible pandemic. There's an opportunity for us to learn something. There's an opportunity for us to pivot. That's like my executive pastor's favorite word, a pivot, and to discover, okay, God, well, what are you doing now? This is a great opportunity. And I would believe, I mean, just have grace with me, friends, whoever's listening, for the churches that are not taking this opportunity to kind of discover, okay, what's possible? Because here's the thing we know to be true. Every single church that has online content that has said like, hey, now that we're online, now that COVID is hit, let's go online. Let's kind of start offering content online. Every church that has done that, their numbers, people have grown almost 100%. And if you haven't grown, you ain't doing nothing. but every single church that has said, hey, let's put the sermons online, let's put the worship online, people are tuning in. It just goes to show that people desire, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. We never had an opportunity to do the ends of the earth until now. And so I see as online ministry and Sandals Church Anywhere, our opportunity to do this ends of the earth type ministry. And so that's where I would say I talked to Jay Crandall on the phone one day. There are people who think online ministry, like that the devil's work. I'm like, okay, stop it. This ain't the devil. Stop it, Ethel. But online is a vehicle. It's an opportunity for us to get Jesus to people that probably will never, ever see it. I've been to these crazy places that you would think, oh my gosh, there's nothing there, but they got cell phones in the hand. They got, how you got internet service in the sticks, but they got it, And so what an opportunity for us to bring a message of Jesus Christ to people. It's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I would say that that Sandals Church, one of the things that we're really trying to do in this moment, the question you asked is like, I don't know if we can like put our finger on anything exact. I can tell you by talking to people what it is for us. Honestly, I think what it is, it's probably for the most part, a really good vision. And I don't know what it is at North Coast. What's the vision at North Coast?
To create disciples in a healthy church environment. Okay.
So ours is, which is great, to create disciples in a healthy church environment. It's great. Ours is being real with ourselves, God, and others. And specifically for us, and I think every church should be this way. So since I'm the one on the podcast, I'm going to just be this way. I feel like we have like one of the best visions because so many churches are not real. They are fake. They are phony. And our pastor lives this out. Probably lives it out. Probably maybe a little too much, but what's great about Pastor Matt is that he had this vision of what would it look like to be real, real with ourselves, real with God, and real with others. And that has stood the test of time for the last 25 years. I think he planted the church in 97. And when we talk to people, they love that vision. They love it. So I would say, I think they love the vision. And honestly, like, I think anyone, without vision, people perish, and I think if you have a really good, solid vision, people will find you. They really will. But it's their vision. I really do believe it's Pastor Matt's teaching. I believe it's his teaching and like Sandals. I mean, gosh, guys, Pastor Osborne and Chris, come on. I mean, you guys have great teachers there, and so it's that. I probably would say the second thing is that we are putting out content or putting out messages that stir people in some kind of way. Because think about it, there's so much out there that people can be drawn in. And so, and I'm only saying this, guys, it's not like, well, I think this might what it be. When I get these emails and I'm starting to get a lot of them. I can't imagine how many I will get in my full tenure here. But I mean, I've been doing this role for the last 3 months, and I get tons of emails. I'm on virtual calls. What these individuals are telling me why they have chosen month after month, year after year, to continue to watch Sandals, to continue to download the content, to continue to just be ministered to by Sandals. And a lot of times it's like, I mean, I was just in this random place, and the funny ones is when I was like, man, I was just randomly searching online and I found you guys, and I watched the message, or I watched the message on Enneagram, and that's probably the number one hits that we get is when we did an Enneagram series. But
was that recently?
I think it was like in 2016, 17.
Was that the one where he took Bible character? Oh my gosh, the Bible characters, and he went through and did like which ones were which Enneagram?
I think so, yeah. I wasn't here, but I think so.
That was so, I brought that up at our staff meeting because I watched so many of them. They were incredible. Yeah.
And it just goes to show you, Kristen and Jeff, that was, I mean, no other series that we've ever done have had that many eyes on it, that many ears listening in. And it just goes to show you, and Enneagram is all about personal assessment. It helps you to understand who you are. People want to know who they are. People are searching for themselves, And as I say, if you search for Jesus, you'll find yourself,
Wow.
And so that's why I love that when a church takes these worldly possible concepts and say, okay, well, let's kind of like, well, where is God possibly in that? And there's people right now upset that I said that, calm yourself down. But when you take something that people are like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Well, let's apply the word of God on that. And either it dismisses it or it says, there might be something to that. But in this circumstance, the Enneagram, Strengths Finders, which I love, DISC, Myers-Briggs is all about learning yourself and maybe learning others, which is be real with ourselves, God, and others. So these assessments are usually real with yourself and real with others. But let's apply the word of God on it so we can understand how it can be real God with who he has designed us to be. And so searching through the lens of the Lord to see how this Enneagram or how this assessment actually plays out who you are. And so I'm telling you guys, like that's probably half of the individuals when I ask them, how did you discover Sandals Church? Man, I was searching online and I found the Enneagram series and it was just awesome. And I watched all of them. And so at the end of the day, guys, people are searching. Here's the question. Are we putting out what they're searching for?
Right.
Are we trying to discover, hey, what do they want? Like when you go to a restaurant, because you like a certain food type. They're going to make sure it's there. How crazy it is if you go to Red Lobster and ain't no seafood. That's just dumb. That make no sense, because they say, hey, we discovered this is what people like, so let's put that out there. No one who's a business owner, and I'm not trying to say the church is a business, but no one who's a business owner is going to put a product out there that no one wants. And a lot of times today, churches are putting stuff out there that no one wants. We're like, why ain't the church growing? Why ain't the church thriving? Well, what you putting out there? Well, we got a bunch of pews and some organs and trust me, ain't nothing like a ham and organ. Come on down to Black church. They will make it happen. But I'm talking about just stuff that's old and ragged and run out and like, hey, the Lord is about newness. And I would say the new thing today, listen, here's the new thing. The new thing today, and man, I feel like I'm saying a lot of things that people might be upset about. The church is going to look different. There is no way we are bouncing back to what was. That's right. If your eyes aren't open to that, man, get some new glasses. There's no way we are going to look, church is going to look the way it was. But there's something about this online. There's something about, connecting to people remote. There's something about possibly maybe even house churches that God is going to use in a new way. The whole big show, big churches, I'm not saying that's not going anywhere, but in some way we need to reframe. We need to, and it's not just the big churches, that's all churches. And so anyway, I can talk forever about that, but that's what we're discovering, why people are like, wow, there's something about Sandals Church. What is something about that place? And this is what we discovered.
Well, you bring up a great point, because there is a fear, not from all churches, but a lot that think the internet and anything online is bad. Stay away from it. It needs to be in a small church setting, or the old-fashioned kind of way of doing it. But where are people these days? They're online. So why wouldn't we be bringing God's word to them where they are? I mean, it's like it's the newest missions field. You can reach everybody. There's a percentage, and I'm going to get it wrong, but of the amount of people in the world that have internet access, it's just astounding. It's not like this small percentage. Everybody has a cell phone. I mean, it's unreal. So, with that, I mean, what would you say for online church, for what you guys are doing right now, post COVID? What do you think online church is going to look like? What are going to be some of the wins you think that you guys are going to move into, or the goals that you would have, assuming this is going to go away, or at least to a manageable point sometime in the near future?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I would say we're going to try to reach as many people as possible. And so we actually developed something. So again, we're not getting rid of live church. That's not, that's not going to happen.
Right.
But we started thinking omni church. And so that's something we've been, or multiple options, because we live in a world today where people are everywhere doing a lot of different things. Sunday morning for a lot of people is like they can't do it. They can't make it for whatever reason. Their schedule, I don't know their work. I don't know what the reason is, but they need a new option. They need something else. And so I would say for us, or the church, or what we're trying to do is like, hey, how can we offer as many options as we possibly can? Almost kind of like, not trying to mix up the context of this, but how can it be all things to all people so that I might win a few? Now, granted, you're not going to be everything to everybody, but how can I offer as many options to people so that I can win as many as I possibly can, and for an individual some, but for a church, like we should be winning as many as we possibly can. So we need to make sure we're offering something out there so that we win some. And so what is the bait? We're supposed to be fishers of men. So what's the bait to bait, individuals in, and it's not anything to trick someone. And so the Enneagram series was a bait, I think a really massive bait is being real, but that's a good bait. I would say, as I look at church for the future, I think it actually looks really, really exciting. I just do. I really, really do. I think with COVID kind of going down, I think we have a great opportunity to see the potential, to see a new opportunity. And if we can offer more options for individuals, I think that would be a great thing. You talked about like, you don't know the stats. Well, I actually do know some of the stats. And so 11 plus hours consuming media each day in America. One person, usually the average person, spends more than 11 hours.
Wow.
Consuming media each day in America. 54% of people feel like no one actually knows them well.
Yeah.
And then 46% of people report feeling lonely. A lot of this is actually because of technology. And so, and loneliness. And so how can we bridge those two together? Hey, they're already looking on a screen. How can we make sure what they're viewing is godly? How can we make sure what they're viewing is something that captures their soul? And then not only that, how can we bring them into community with the body of Christ? The suicides, the loneliness, the depression that's going on, guys, is crazy, and it's running rampant. And the church is the hope. The church is not just a hope in America. The church is the hope of the world for at all times. And so how can we bring hope to people visually? How can we bring hope to people in community? And so that's kind of what that's what I'm trying to do. And that's also what we're trying to do specifically within Sandals Church.
And I love like your passion for like what you do is just completely contagious. And I think, as I'm kind of getting absorbed into your vision and hearing you talk, it's going so much more from like, because we've been putting our sermons online for a long time. I mean, like, it's always like, oh, we miss church. Back in the day, I would always grab the CD off the receptionist desk on my way out, listen to my CD on my commute, whatever. Now it's podcasts, but there's a big difference between like, hey, this is the sermon you missed, and this is the sermon for you, like going online and like just the intentionality and the quality and the purpose behind what you're doing to create like, no, this is a church, not the makeup work for the church that you missed.
Right.
And
right.
I think that is going to start to change the face of online church from an afterthought of like, oh, here's just an option for those of you that were busy. But now it's going to like, this is our church. And I mean, your passion for it is, and I think you're, like you said, you're going to continue to get a ton of questions because we're running out of time. But I mean, I still want to know what are like children's and youth and like getting like the full family experience and how are you, I mean, can you tell us really quick before we ask our final question, just are we engaging the whole family now?
Yeah, you're really quick. So I'm constantly in conversation, guys. Probably the last meeting of the day today was to talk to the children's ministry, the individuals who put a lot of content online. And so and before COVID, this is what they were doing. Because we're a big church, probably like you, they record stuff for the actual campuses, and then a lot of the students there or the kids there view it, and then they break up into the groups. And so they're putting that online. And so now, COVID happens, everyone's online. And so they kind of developed a little bit, but now I'm asking them like, well, what does it look like to go to the next level? What does that look like? And so we have an amazing individual, you probably know his name, Justin Knowles, who is, he leads up our entire youth ministry department at Sandals Church. And this dude is brilliant. And what they've done when COVID hit, they were like, it's kind of crazy how ready they were. Like, brother, did you start COVID? I mean, they just were so ready to kind of switch and pivot. It was awesome. And they were offering great content. And so on my team, though, as I continue to build them, I'm getting, what does it look like to have an online soul care? So online soul care person who just, anyone who needs any type of care, therapy, anything like that, like he's leading that team. An online remote community guy, an online youth pastor. We're hiring that person right now. Online kids ministry, online, so that we can start thinking because it's a full campus. And so we're thinking marriage, we're thinking women's, we're thinking all of that, all these ministries, we are trying to develop that. And honestly, in a way, the easiest way to think of is youth. Youth is, come on, really? If we had a couple issues with Zoom right now, they would figure out in a hot second. But Jeff, it took you probably 10 minutes to figure it out. They don't know that, but I know that. And so for the younger generation, they're already here. And so that's an easy pivot. It's an easy switch. We just need to figure out, okay, what are they looking for? What are they searching for? And we have a great youth ministry leads and pastors at our church discovering that. So that's probably the easiest, fastest way to answer that question.
Yeah. I mean, and that goes back to what we're saying. Like, this is now not an afterthought. This is, for all intents and purposes, a campus. Right. Like, this is a campus. And yeah. I mean, I'm so excited to, I get to see what you're doing on Instagram, and, we check in here and there, but just 6 months from now of just the shape that this continues to take. And, we're all going to stay in that space. And so we're going to continue to come back to this. We always like to end with just a fun personal question. Before we go, Jeff, because you've shared so much good stuff with us, like unbelievable, and you've worked a full day. We want to let you get a little rest. But what is Jeff Whye's biggest pet peeve?
Wow, come on. So I'm usually biggest pet peeve. So I would so I'm usually very I'm the funny guy. Obviously I'm very passionate, but I might get a little serious here. Am I allowed to get a little serious? I won't take long at all. Okay, and this is really coming quick. You know, Chris, like, Lord have mercy, how long are you gonna take? I am a black preacher. I honestly, guys, my biggest pet peeve is Christians who don't do what the Bible says. And I know that's pretty simple, but it's pretty agitating to me. It's a big pet peeve. You think like, you know, somebody like, well, people who, you know, are not common sense, you know, and that would be probably another one, just people who have no common sense. It's crazy to me for people who call themselves believers in Jesus Christ, Christians, who literally don't do what the Bible says, that we're not loving, that we're not caring, that we're not compassionate, that we're not empathetic, that we're not about justice and mercy and all these wonderful, amazing, yeah, I like to think about it. I'm here to pass the talk about it. When it comes to actually doing it, it really blows my mind. Am I perfect? No. My wife will tell you that. But I just, it does amaze me how it seems like there's more individuals who literally don't live the Bible out than do when it comes to believers in Jesus Christ. And that's hard. That's just really hard for me. And I can get it like, you know, oh, you know, did you know that about the Bible? Oh yeah, shoot, I screwed up again. But the people are like, well, what's wrong with that? You know, they don't even understand and know like what you're doing is completely against the word of God. And it's kind of giving giving the Lord a bad name, you know? And so I would say give us a bad name. But to me, and that wasn't super funny. I got some funny ones at another time and day if you want to have me back. But that one is because I think for right now, it really is frustrating with everything going wrong with COVID, with politics, with race and all this stuff. Like, man, it's like we've never read the Bible before. It's like we've never read it. And so yeah, that's a pet peeve for me.
Well, that's a very pastor pet peeve,
yeah.
You know, like and I think Jesus probably has the same one is what I would think. Yeah. Why do you call me Lord yet not do what I say? Like, I would think that you guys would be running in the same lane on pet peeves if I had to guess, you know.
That's good company.
Yeah.
That's good company to have.
But as I say that though, I almost like, you know, we're supposed to equip the saints for the work of ministry. One of the reasons why people are there because this pastor is not equipping the saints for the work of ministry. You know, so, you know, in some regards, you know, it's not totally, you know, the sheep's fault, the flock's fault, but in a lot of circumstances, we have the shepherds of houses that are not teaching and pushing individuals the right way. So, yeah. I'm a pastor, so what can I say?
You are.
Come on now.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for all the wisdom that you always bring and the humor. I knew having you on was going to be a great idea, and you did not disappoint. Real quick, how can people get a hold of you, or where can they find Sandals Church and things like that?
Yeah, of course. Well, the easiest is to go to sandalschurch.com. And there you can find everything Sandals Church. You can go to locations or whatever, find sandalschurch.tv, Sandals Church /anywhere to find out what we're doing there, which is really, really neat. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have Twitter, but I barely use it. I'm not on Twitch yet. Well, it's a Twitch, right? That's what it is. I mean, got a Twitch, you know, come on.
You'll get a Twitch if you go on Twitter, guaranteed.
Thank you, because that's what youth ministry did for me. Lord, have all the mercy. Come on, somebody. I got a couple gray hairs, and I say it's always from marriage. I love my wife, kids, and youth ministry. That's where the gray hairs came from.
Accurate.
But that's how you can get in touch with me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for checking out this episode. We hope that it provided a ton of insight for you to create health in yourself, your ministry, and your church.
And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Ministry Coach podcast wherever you're watching or listening. And it would mean so much to us if you would rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts.
And we'd also encourage you to share it with a friend so that it can go to help more people. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.